Hello, everybody. Glad you could join us for episode number 53 of the Launch and Beyond podcast, a podcast designed to support you in not only achieving great success in your business, but also in other areas of life as well. Many would agree that the path of entrepreneurship and business involves many twists and turns that can involve risk and uncertainty. Who knows what's around the corner? And that may challenge you and your business. Yet the attempt to mitigate all risk and play a defensive game all the time may be costing you more than you could possibly imagine. Falling just short of ambitious goals will grow your business. Taking baby steps forever because you're scared may not. And while in no way advocating being reckless with your decisions and actions, in this week's episode titled Playing It Safe, we discuss how your unwillingness to stretch your comfort zone, embrace calculated risks, and both personally and professionally may be costing you greatly. As John A. Shedd says in his famous quote, "A ship in the harbour is safe, but that's not what ships are built for." We hope you enjoy it. Hello again, Adam, for this important podcast on Playing It Safe. I'm looking forward to discussing this and talking about the journey of entrepreneurship and why a lot of people choose not to start it in the first place.
You're saying that with a really cheeky smile on your face.
I do, because there is inherent within business, in life, there's risk, and we can't control all of it all the time. And a lot of people choose not to go into business because of the inherent risks in there. So I think this is a really important topic to discuss. So we use the context of it in business, but it's applicable in all other areas of life. You could be playing it safe within your job, your world, and not stretching your capacity. You're not stretching your talents. You're just playing it safe, staying in the comfort zone. And so consequently, that comes with a level of security, but it also comes at a cost of keeping you contained and potentially not fulfilling you to your optimum potential. So that's really where that's the motivation behind this podcast episode.
Yeah, it was like with 75 Hard. The last time I did it, previously, every time I've done it, I've been like, oh, running's not for me. You know, I'm going to hurt my knee. I'm going to play it safe. You know, my body is my tool at work. Like I work in a physical field. I don't want to run too much. And in the last one, I just go, you know what, let's run. And I ran. And after about 4 weeks, I think it was, I stopped getting knee pain and I stopped getting tight calves, and my Achilles, all my muscles had strengthened to the point where I started to form a bit of a runner's body. It was getting used to the impact. Yeah, there's impact, but it's not like what it used to be. And then I went from running 2Ks at the start, to on the last day I ran a half marathon. And I never thought in my whole life that I could run a half marathon. But it was because I stopped playing it safe. I stopped going, hey, I'm not going to run. Oh, I'm going to run without the fear of injury. And if I do get injured, I'll deal with it. But before, I wasn't running because I was fearful of the injury.
Yeah.
But it was me playing too safe.
Yeah. And that's one example of that, which I think is a great example in terms of the physical capacities that we put on ourselves, or the physical blocks that we put on ourselves, but that could just equally be applicable to a whole lot of other areas as well.
Yeah,
right? So,
I can see it heaps in business as well.
Yeah. So the within the context of the wheelhouse of our podcast, which has a basis particularly in entrepreneurship and business, it's an important topic to discuss because, number one, we all understand and appreciate that within business and entrepreneurship, there is an element of risk, probably more so than in an employee role. So it's really important that people understand that you do require a higher risk tolerance to go out on your own in there. So that's an important consideration. Point number two is, even within that, like some people may embrace and take on a business, but they know in themselves when they're being too defensive and too aggressive. And so this is really the case of, I guess this is what we want to focus on is, so let's just accept that the journey is potentially there are risks, but somewhere in that business itself, that you're playing it too safe, and so in companies that are on probably listed, what they know is that if they can't get returns for their investors over and above the cost of the money that they could get putting it in the bank, they usually return it back to the investors and go, this is basically a shareholder return, because effectively they're going, we don't know what to do. We haven't got any options. We're going to play defensive, so we might as well give it back to you.
Yeah.
All right. So that's what happens in the world, because the businesses recognize that we're going to play it too safe, and that's not necessarily in your best interest. So that's how that plays out.
Yeah, it's almost like raising funds just to have capital in the bank, and that's it. There's no use for that money to grow the business. It's just sitting there to have working cash flow.
Yeah. And so, we recognize, number 3, that a lot of the times what we want to talk about is playing it safe is what is quite often holding you back in that context. So, for example, if you are in business and you have, in a previous podcast, I was going to talk about one example, but you talked about another one in a previous podcast where playing it safe, you're talking about the capacity constraints that have come from your current work scenario. You're maxed out at your current stage and level in terms of your production hours, in terms of what you're wanting to operate in between 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Okay. So for you, you've taken a step, you've embraced the risk, and you've jumped up and taken a risk by going, okay, I'm going to go into bigger premises. So with that comes risk, but staying where you were comes at a cost, and that means that you can't grow any further. So playing it safe would be just staying where you are and just doing the same thing. Taking that next step and level, as calculated a risk as it is, I mean, you might take on a bigger lease, a bigger premises, and what that gives you is an opportunity to increase your production, increase your output. So consequently, that expands and grows your business, but you can't do that if you're playing it safe within your current reality.
Yeah, and just this is my risk profile. I didn't go for a building double the size or triple. I went 4 times the size. I'm going big because this one, I'm going to be here for the next 5 years, maybe 10, but I want to move out before 5 years is done. I want to go to a bigger place. I want to go to something that's five times the size of that. My mind's not stopping. I'm not playing it safe. I'm going big because you don't achieve anything worth anything if you're constantly playing it safe. It's just, yeah, it's not in me. I'm not perfect, but I know that I want bigger.
Yeah.
And doesn't necessarily mean financially. I just want recognition.
But there's a particular part of the human mind that has to lean into that, is to go, okay, look, gee, that comes with risk. That comes with a level of exposure. I'm going to really go for it. But in order for me to go for it, I've got to stop playing a small game, whatever that small game is. It's not, it doesn't have to be basically slaying the dragon every time, but it's a case of playing it safe. It could be about not sharing my feelings with somebody.
Yeah.
That's playing it safe. And so consequently, because you were unprepared to put yourself out there and communicate how you felt about somebody, you missed out on that. All right. So there's multiple, or you playing it safe by not really launching a new product, a new venture, a new direction, all those kind of things. So you stay in the known. So consequently, you end up either bored or not really knowing if it could have worked.
Yeah.
And so there's a guy, it's actually really interesting that when I was studying chiropractic, when I was at uni, there was a guy who he was a phenomenal rugby union player, and he was from New Zealand, and he just missed out on the New Zealand national team. And because the position that he played, he had 1 or 2 guys ahead of him, and so consequently he wasn't able to get into the New Zealand All Blacks, and
which is a tough team to get into.
Tough team to get into, right? So what he did is that he went, okay, well, I always wanted to study, so he flew to Australia and he started studying chiropractic, and we were in our first and second year. And this guy, we used to drive to uni together because we lived nearby, and I'd spend, being in a car with a guy who was basically a professional rugby union player. It was phenomenal because the preparation, he brought that same preparation to all areas of his world, right? And that included, say, you know, every drive in there, we would be listening to audiobooks or tapes back in the day.
Yeah.
And so we were filling our mind. So this is like, I do this now and I trace that back to those moments, right? So 30 years of behavior, I trace back to working with Dirk, right? So, but what was really interesting, in our second year, an opportunity came. He got, because, you know, he was very, very low profile in terms of, well, not low profile, he didn't draw attention to himself, but everybody knew who he was, right? Except for a Victorian who knew nothing about rugby union. And so the Australian Rugby Union representative union came and asked him to try out for the Australian team. And so he went in while we were in second year and he went, okay, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to really go for it. And long story short, he didn't make the Australian team, right? He ended up deferring that year and coming back the next year. So he was a year below us after that. And a lot of people looked at that and said, hey, Dirk, you know, that cost you a year of your study. You could have been finished earlier. But I'll never forget what Dirk said was that, you know what, I had to go for it because I wouldn't have known if I could. And I gave it my best. I didn't make it. I'm comfortable and at peace with that. But if I played it safe, I never would have gone for it. And for the rest of my life, I would have had that playing in the back of my mind going, coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Yeah.
And that would have driven me more crazy than going for it, not achieving that goal, and then basically being content in myself. And to me, that was a perfect example of someone who chose to embrace the uncertainty of really going for their dream and not playing it safe.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. People play it safe. They go, why would you go for riding your bike on the road? You could get hit by a car. But in the same token, if I'm sitting at home and there's a storm, a tree could fall through this room right now and we could die. There's always a risk in everything we do in life. Who are you to determine what's the bigger risk? I know there's some reckless things, but that's where risk mitigation comes into it. But yeah, there's a risk in everything in life.
Yeah.
You've just got to know how much risk you want to put on the line.
Yeah. So we're going to expand on this, and we've got 10 points of areas that if you're prepared to lean in and take that risk and avoid playing it safe, there's some massive benefits to you in getting to that stage. But before we do that, we've got to identify what are some of the reasons why people do choose to play it safe. Okay. We've identified 4 of those. One of them is the big one, which is fear. You know, people are scared of making mistakes or failing at things. And so consequently, they'll stay in the current scenario. What's the old saying? Better the devil you know than the devil you don't know. So that consequently keeps them protected, safe, not actually exposing themselves or putting risk into that situation. All right, so that's point number 1. Point number 2 is they don't have confidence or certainty themselves to take action. All right, they're not sure of themselves. They don't feel good enough, worthy enough to really go for it. I don't have all the skills. I don't have all the tools. Here's the reality. Most times, most people don't have all that information. And it's more just I'm prepared to act as if. I'm prepared to go before I'm ready. I'm prepared to wing it. I'm just going to put myself out there and see what happens. So
fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it. All those kind of scenarios. So the thing is, the biggest thing that I've learned is that people who do great things aren't oblivious to those feelings or aren't immune to those feelings of fear. They just act in spite of them. They act as acknowledge it and they go, I am scared, I am terrified. I'm still going to do it anyway. And that's a really important consideration. It's not something that's wrong with you if you have those feelings. The difference is that you're allowing them to control and stop you from taking action.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you've got to sit down and go, this is where I want to be in life. What does it take for me to get to that point? And then how do you execute it without thinking about fear or anything or any constraints? That's where I want to be. It's non-negotiable on the steps I have to take. So one day you turn up and you go, hey, I know this is a step I've got to take. it might be really scary to do it, but if I don't do that, I'm not going to achieve my ultimate goal. So you got to sit there and just think about it and go, you know what? It's not worth me fearing this step. I know that for me to achieve my goal, I've got to take that step. And you got to just almost remove it. And eventually you'll get good enough to not even think about it anymore. You go, that's a step that I need to take. You just take it. You don't think too far into it. You just go, I'll take that step. If something goes wrong, we'll deal with it when it goes wrong. But most of the time, it's going to go pretty right. And if it does go wrong, you've just learned a new lesson in life, and you can move forward and you can attack it in a different way.
Yeah, yeah, good point. Good point. Look, another reason why people may not be comfortable enough to go for it and choose to play it safe is that they don't have enough information. And on previous podcasts, we've talked about the 70% rule, which the military use, and it's a little bit of an extension of what I just said a moment ago. Is if you've got 70% of the information available, you're good to get started. You've got enough to start the process, knowing that you will work it out as you're going along. And so that's the process that builds momentum. And if you wait until you have 100%, 110%, 120% of the information and you're not pulling the trigger, chances are you're playing it safe. Because if this was an established pathway, you've mitigated all the risks, you know that it's a possibility. You're just waiting till you have not only dead certainty, but over beyond that. And the cost of that may be that the opportunity may pass you by because you didn't go at the right time.
Yep.
And so the fourth reason why people may be playing it safe is just may be part of their risk tolerance. And so you may have a lower threshold or a higher threshold than everybody else or other people, and that's okay. In the financial services area, before they determine what plan you have, they ask you to rank your risk tolerance and risk profile. And some people may have more of an aggressive risk tolerance. Some people have got a more conservative one. Neither are right or wrong. It's more just a case of matching your risk tolerance to the path and the direction you go. So if you acknowledge and appreciate that you've got a lower risk tolerance, you're going to take steps that for some people who've got a high risk tolerance are going to be considered as playing it safe. So it's about finding that happy medium.
Yeah, it was funny because I'm currently sort of in a negotiation to take on a partnership to expand the business. And one of the things I said to the potential partner was, hey, this year we turned over 1.2 million. Next year I want to turn over 5 million. The year after that, it's going to be 15. And the guy's like, you're taking off a lot. And he's been in business for 30 years, longer than I have. But he's sitting there going, that's big jumps. You're going to have to put lots of money in for that. I go, yeah, you put lots of money, but there's the reward that comes back from it. There's nothing great about just earning a wage in your own business. I want to be there going, hey, I earned this. And there's wage, there's bonuses, there's profit, there's, crazy amounts of expansion. I go, but you can't go like that if you're just planning to make 10% more next year. I want to make 300% more. I want to make 500% more. I want to keep growing. But that's where I go, well, my risk tolerance is a lot higher than the average person because I understand that I'm going to have to put a lot more money in now, but I'll be a lot more comfortable in 5 years. Whereas I'm not just going to be earning my wage in my own business like I'm a staff member.
Yeah. So Adam, just on that too, I mean, you've made a statement, a proclamation that that's quite decisive, and so consequently, there are going to be actions that go into it that will need to reflect that, right? So, but I just want to make a big distinction that along the way, there's a big difference between calculated risks and recklessness, right? So you're going to look at this and go, okay, with any capital investment in your business, you're going to look at this and go, okay, before I put X amount of money into it, what are the anticipated and expected returns of that? Or, do I have a contract in place before I commit to the expenditure? So they're ways that you're taking the risk and investing, but you also know that you've got the contracted source side up. So recklessness would be just going, Okay, awesome. And this is what happened a lot in a lot of the .com companies where they just had recklessness. They had a huge cash burn rate. They didn't have any strategy or plan. They had the cash there and they just blew it, and consequently they're gone.
Yeah.
So there is, even within diligent growth, even in expansive growth, there are risks, but most people have kind of basically engineered the process. They've kind of created a cash flow assessment. They've done all these modeling processes to work out exactly the what ifs, and they've stress tested that scenario. So even within that expansion mode, there's strategies that you're taking to minimize that risk.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. This is coming from the guy on this side of the table that he pretty much signed a lease to a factory without the contract signed. So that's where my risk tolerance is. But I got the contract signed within a month after that. A handshake agreement at that time was good enough. It's not good enough anymore because I've been around. So my risk tolerance is coming a little bit more conservative. I don't know if it's age or if I've been burnt a little bit by other opportunities. So now
I would say that it what happens is that the bigger games you play and the bigger margins, and in working with and studying some of the biggest and the wealthiest people on the planet, funny enough, what happens is at the start of the career, they might have taken more reckless risks because they've got nothing to lose. Then as you start to build something there, you're going, okay, how do I keep expanding and growing, but I'm not putting the farm on the line every time.
Yeah.
And so that's what that happens. And so consequently, it's about it happens a lot in trading and in forex trading a lot, where you deal in what are called lot sizes, and so you still mitigate all the risks, but you just level up the scenario. So you're dedicating a portion of your portfolio each and every time, and so consequently, there's two parts. There's capital preservation and there's expansion and growth. And so as your capital base gets bigger, you've got more to deal with, but the ratios or the percentages are staying the same. So you know what I mean? So you might go, okay, I'm going to put $1 million on the line for this venture, but I've got, that may be in your first million, and you're putting everything in, all in. Very much like Elon Musk did right when he sold PayPal. He put everything, just loaded it all up to start SpaceX and Tesla, right? He put everything in. But most people don't do that. If they have a big sort of sale or they've got money in there, they'll allocate a portion of it, and they can be incredibly risky in that area purely because they've got their base and they've got their buffers in place in there as well. So what happens, it comes with, I guess, experience to just go, okay, this is what I did last time. This worked really well. This didn't. Maybe I should think about my strategy moving forward.
Well, that's why I like with the potential partner is towards his 50s. I think is in his late 40s or something. But his risk tolerance is probably reflective of his age, whereas I'm still in that young phase. Like, look, I just want to go and take it, and he's probably like, I've already done all that stuff. I'm quite comfortable. And hey, he's set up his businesses and structures that he is in a great position financially, but at the same time, I'm like, I want to push the boundaries. There's no stopping me. My momentum's going and it's in positive direction, and I'm not going to stop for anyone.
Yeah, and so having in that scenario, if you're partnering with someone who has complementary skills and an opposite view in some ways to you, and that's actually a really good partnership, because what's happening is that you're not partnering with someone who's got exactly the same risk profile to you, because otherwise what happens is you tend to reinforce each other's biases, and so consequently there's areas that you're going to miss. So if you've got someone who's got a complementary risk profile and a view of the world and business, you actually leverage off each other. It's actually strategically, it's a good partnership.
Yeah, well, this is what I said to him. He's really good on the numbers side of stuff, and I'm really good on selling. I could sell anything to anyone. I go, you cost the products, I'll sell it to anyone. That's it. And I go, that's how we're going to grow, because I can sell anything. It's just, can you keep up with me?
Yep.
So yeah, because I'm not playing it safe.
Yeah.
But he can play it as safe as he wants on the numbers. That's where our as you said, that's where the relationship is. He can be safe on the numbers. He can know where the range is that I can negotiate on, and I know that he'll be happy because I've got my range, and then I can just go sell.
Yeah. Well, if you've got your left and right flank covered, you can then go into what you do. Right?
Yeah.
So that's what that is. So, playing it safe, interestingly, may be that within your current structure, you don't have the people or the resources or the support that allow you to move into places that you want to do. And so you've just highlighted an example where by partnering with somebody, potentially that gives you exposure and opportunities that you may not have had by yourself by leveraging the relational capital of a partnership.
Yep.
So no, that's a good strategic step. So, Adam, there are 10 things that we've identified that would be benefits of leaning into your fears and taking calculated risks. Stopping you just playing it safe and giving you every opportunity to expand and grow, whatever that looks like for you. So, the first benefit of leaning into your fear would be that it allows you to conquer them and gain confidence with that the more you do it. So every time that you step into a fear, every time you step into an uncertainty, you convince the part of your brain that's trying to keep you safe, that's trying to prevent you from doing that, and you're building confidence and you're building trust in self and in your own personal account to go, yeah, I did this before. I've got references for it. I did it before. I'll back myself to do it again. So it's a really important process. It becomes like any muscle. The more you use it, the better it gets.
Yeah, you just build positive momentum.
Yeah.
And then when you come up with something new that you'll actually get worried about, like it actually brings fear to you, you can just go, well, this is how I thought about this situation 5 years ago, but I kicked its ass. So now this one, yeah, I'm apprehensive, I'm worried, but I'm going to keep going because I haven't failed yet. And when I failed, I've learned a lesson. And then that means I've just got a new way to tackle the issue when I fail. But you can't live your life going, I'm going to fail at everything, because then you leave so much on the table. Like, as you mentioned with the rugby player, now he knows that, all right, he wasn't good enough, couldn't make it. But imagine living his life going, I could have made the team.
Yeah.
I just didn't. I just stayed in school.
Yeah.
He got that out of his mind. He's like,
so
I gave it a shot, and that's it.
Yeah, so important. Which is actually point number 2 that you just mentioned, which it reduces the regrets that you have for not taking action. And there's a book called The Regrets of the Dying. It was written here in Australia by a palliative care nurse, and she would sit with people on their deathbed and find out, what are some of the regrets you've had in life. And interestingly, what was amazing about this book and the things that came out of this was what people regretted most in their life was not necessarily what they did, but it's actually what they didn't do. And so hear that again, right? It's not what we did, it's what we didn't do. And a lot of the times I wanted to have done this, I should have done that. I didn't really go for it. I played the safe route. I went down the professional path, and that stopped you from expressing what makes your heart sing. So a lot of the times by playing it safe, you're not going to really go to embrace and grab what it is that really inspires you in life. Not always.
Yeah, and Les Brown, he talks about the wealthiest place in the world is a cemetery because of all the people's ideas that they never actually got to and do. And a lot of people just die not thinking that they could have done more. So you're 100% right. One of the things you always hear is, I regret that I didn't do this. I didn't do that. I could have been a race car driver. I loved go-karts. I didn't try. I didn't push more. I wish I pushed more because I could have lived a completely different life. And it's sad. That's the sad part. I don't ever want to be in that space. I want to go, hey, I did everything that I could think of under the sun. And yeah, sometimes I failed. Sometimes things happen, but I'll never die thinking I could have done more because I'm doing it all.
So regret is a really heavy energy and an emotion to carry around. So that comes as a result a lot of times for people of playing it safe and not really going for it. Point number 3 of playing it safe that it stops you from doing is testing yourself and developing new skills and talents. So a lot of the times you don't know what you're capable of unless you put yourself out there, unless you put yourself in the ring to test that out. And there's a famous poem called "The Man in the Arena," and it's exactly that. You know, you are better off putting yourself in the arena, being tested, fall down, come back up, and find out what you're truly capable of, rather than not trying at all. And testing yourself quite often will astound you. You just go, I didn't know I could do that. And this is what going for it and putting yourself in that place allows you to do.
Yeah, it was funny 2 years ago, last year, 2000. Oh, I forget when it was, but I was like, I need to get out of the space that I'm in. I'm too focused in on all my situations. I need a release. I need an outlet. So I was like, I'm going to start drawing. It's something I've never done before. It's not where I'm comfortable. I'm not.
What type of drawing?
It was just charcoal,
Yeah.
like, black and whites and some shading and all this. I'm like, I don't even know where to start. I've got no clue. And I remember watching one of my uncles when he was just sitting there drawing. He was drawing a tree, but he was taking such pride and time. And there was 3 or 4 kids just watching him because it was so good. And I'm like, it's just it's art, you know? And so I'm sitting there, got my pad and got my charcoal and watching a YouTube video, and they're telling me how to draw this apple. And as I finished, I was like, wow, that apple's actually pretty good for my first ever charcoal drawing. And I showed it to my mum because my mum's always like, oh, look, that's, and she's like, that's actually pretty good. And she's like, I didn't know you could draw. I'm like, I didn't know I could draw either, but I just went out of my comfort zone. And I'm like, I want to try something that's completely different. I've got the music part, but I wanted to try something I've never done.
That's cool.
And then I did a cup as well, like just a normal cup, and that turned out just as good. I'm like, I guess I got a knack for this, but I wouldn't have ever tried if I didn't think outside of the box and go, hey, I need to have a release.
Test new skills. It's funny you say that because tomorrow I'm going to an art exhibition.
Oh, cool.
And what's really interesting about this is my wife Bettina, who always had an interest in drawing and art. You know, when our kids were little, she just dabbled with it a little bit, and then that was, you know, it was like life got busy and just put it on hold. So about 12 months ago, she went, look, no, I really want to get back into this, and so she started taking art classes again, and part of the process was leading them to that process where they then exhibit. So part of her work, as well as the students, as well as artists, is on show in this show tomorrow.
Oh, cool.
So that was her putting herself out there, and so it doesn't have to be in a business sense. It's like, I don't reckon there's too many. I've spoken to writers and artists who say that some of the most vulnerable things that you can ever do is just put your work out there for people to comment on. That's pretty exposing.
Yeah.
And playing it safe would be drawing and just keeping them in your portfolio at home, but putting them up framed for people to look at is kind of putting it out there.
Putting it all out there.
I don't, like there's a lot of things that I'm comfortable in risk. I'd have to grow into that one, to be honest, actually.
Yeah, I think a cup and an apple are pretty safe to put out there.
They're doing life drawing, right?
Yeah.
So they're life drawing ones, and I can't, like Bettina's got them in her office at home, and our boys have quite often walked in, and you don't want to hear the comments that they walk in when they've walked in, and then going, what the hell are all these drawings going on? But I'm super proud of her for just stepping out of her comfort zone and trying something different in that big way.
But it's something to say about her character, to be able to humble herself halfway through her life and go, you know what, I'm going to go back and be a student again.
Yeah.
And she's done this before, but just coming back and re-enhancing and doing a class and going, no, I really want to do this again. And just going, hey, I'm an expert in this field. I've written books. I've done all this, but I can be a student again.
Yeah.
It's something about her character.
Beginner's mindset, right?
Yep. White belt.
That's it. That's exactly what that is. So if you are prepared to test yourself and develop new skills, the next level what that will do for you when you are prepared to step into your fear is it's going to open up new ideas, opportunities, and experiences for you. Because what will happen is based on where you are right now, that's going to attract different situations, opportunities, and people to you. But the moment that you go to another stage and level, or like you said with your basically taking on a new premises at a much bigger premises, that's going to open up different opportunities, different options, different situations for you that you wouldn't have had available to you had you stayed where you were. And so they can be both commercial opportunities, but they can also be personal opportunities that are the case. So you start laying momentum and the foundation of different types of realities and possibilities when you embrace the uncertainty of a bigger step.
Yep. And this is a thing that me, with my experience in doing the consulting and seeing how when you have key customers come in, the difference between just talking numbers with the key customer and then having a chef or a pastry chef prepare the food and then serve it up to the potential customer and they get to eat it and try it, you can see it in their face. They're like, I've got faith in this product all of a sudden. So when I sat down and I was talking to the potential partner, I'm like, I'm going to have a display kitchen here where we can do presentations. There'll be a projector on the wall. We can run numbers. And he was looking at me like, I've never even thought about doing that. I was like, yeah, well, you got to do something different than what everyone else does in the industry. You know, it's all good to drop a sample off. But if you've got a slideshow and I can cook it fresh for them and I can put fresh custard over a plum pudding or whatever it is, they just go, wow, I can actually see this. And they got some value and ownership on it now. Like, yeah, this product is good. We can sell this. And then when they're selling it, they've got this different fire. So then the end user will get it and go, hey, the guy who sold me this really loves it. And yeah, it just builds on that. It opens you up to more opportunities, but you've just got to be willing to have the space or the time or, you know, just look outside that box. And that's why the hobby was great for me. It was because I was looking at doing something I've never done before. And some people like to read novels, fiction novels. Some people like to just play games. Like there's ways to get out, to be outside of your comfort zone, but to be productive as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
It opens opportunities.
Sure does. And point number 5 of being prepared to embrace the uncertainty and take steps is that we kind of mentioned elements of this is it encourages both personal and business growth. So you're going to grow as a person when you step into uncertainty. And as a result of that, that may open up possibilities that we said in multiple areas, but you're going to grow as a person. And when you're consistently stepping into the uncertainty in all areas of your life, you can't help but not grow. You're not going to be the same version of yourself as you were 10 years ago when you're consistently stepping into those situations and avoid the constraints of that. You know, I can see that, and you can see that a lot when, you know, I talked a lot about the migrant story in another channel, and you know what always amazed me was the story of a migrant is phenomenal, because a lot of the times you take this massive risk in uprooting your whole family, your whole way of life, your language, you move away from all those kind of things, and you take this massive risk to go to another country. You may not know the language, and that's, I guess this is a story that's really important to me because that's the journey of my parents, right? And so what really fascinated me was, and if anybody's watching here, I'm Adam's right in front of me and I look at him regularly, but I'm going into this different, I'm looking up and to the right, picturing this story, and Adam's just looking out of the room going, what's he looking at? And I'm not, man. I'm just, I can see this picture in my mind. So I do apologize if you're seeing me on video.
I thought something was about to fall.
There's nothing
talking about risk.
No, man. I'm just in that part of the brain that draws pictures. But you know, some of these the migrants, took the biggest risk you could ever possibly imagine in one go and never took any more risks again. They played it safe. And granted, they did a huge amount of things, but they never, ever, ever took another risk in their life. And I was really struggling to understand that. And, you know, within my extended family, there were people who did that. They took one massive jump and never jumped again. And then there's other people who make it a way of life, who choose to take regular steps, sometimes small, sometimes big, but the cumulative impact and the multiplier effect of all of those means they progress so much further. So it's really interesting how that can impact on your life, because unless you're prepared to make that as a way of life, stagnation fits in, inertia fits in, and you stay where you are unless you're consistently making that a way of life.
Yeah, a great example.
Yeah.
One that I have is when I was younger, through my teenage years, I knew someone who was a skydiving instructor, or his dad, sorry. And one day he jumped, his chute didn't open, and, you know, that doesn't end well. And so that sort of put fear in me. I never wanted to jump out of a plane because of that one time that, you know, it happens so rarely, but it happens. And then I started doing all this stuff with business and traveling and consulting and doing things that I never thought I would possibly be doing in my life as a chef. And then in 2019, I went to Dubai and I've got to jump from the Palm. Will Smith jumped from there, Flow Rider jumped from there. That's like the celebrity spot, because as you're coming down, it's one of the most scenic drops. And you're pretty much jumping over the city. And you're not far from any high-rise buildings. It's actually a little bit scary how close, now I'm reflecting on it, it's a little bit scary how close we were to the buildings. And I just jumped. So because of my risk profile from what I've done in business, I almost had this invincible mentality that I can do anything now. I'm happy to jump out of a plane. And I did the first jump and I'm like, I want to do more. I want to be able to do solo jumps. I don't want to do tandems. I don't want to have some guy always strapped to the back or some girl strapped to the back of me while I'm jumping. I want to be able to do this by myself. I want to be able to base jump. And my risk profile in my personal life has just lifted because my risk profile or tolerance in my business life is high. Maybe one day it's going to drop down. I don't know. We'll see how the course of life is. But now that I know I've jumped from a plane, I've got no regrets. I go, well, that was so thrilling, so exciting. Maybe next time we can go, Jim.
Yeah, well, I'll start with the iFly, which is a good opportunity to just test that in there. That was what we call deflection. So which leads me to point number 6, which is further deflection.
One thing was when you said "yep," your voice went really high.
Yeah, that's
so I know you're lying.
Yeah, a lot of it didn't automatically just hit me as I'm going to race out there and do
Yeah. Let's do it. It was yep.
Point number 6 is when you choose to. Yeah, that was a good deflection. Point number 6 is when you choose to embrace fear, it creates change, and once you start the momentum of change, that starts introducing different perspectives. So playing it safe consistently means, and this is not necessarily in business, but you put yourself out there, and that will give you the example I'm thinking specifically is it will introduce you to people who will introduce you to different ideas and concepts and perspectives that you may not have considered before. And that's perhaps going to help you with either your personal growth or your business growth in there as well. But making it a way of life of embracing, something very simple like, hey, we're going to go out there and, we always go and eat this style of food. How about we try something different? Or, hey, we're going to go and travel, and we normally would travel to these type of countries if you could travel. But how about we do this now? Yeah. And so that kind of playing it safe, going off the beaten track, trying different things, change perspectives for you and change you as a person. So there are massive benefits in that.
Well, as you mentioned, a lot of people used to travel overseas, and I heard something on the news maybe, because, the news is all true. I heard that, more people have money in their accounts now because they're not saving up for that big holiday and traveling. But a lot of people now, they're doing camping trips and stuff, and that builds resilience up to go back into the elements for 1 night, 2 nights and sleep in a tent, and you don't really have electricity, you don't have technology, and you're just going and being present in that moment. that changes you as a human. It builds a bit more resilience rather than going to spend time in a 4-star, 5-star hotel and just get drunk and sit at the pool all the time. This is teaching you how to be resourceful, build fires, to cook food within the elements, and it changes your mindset. You actually gain stuff from that. Whereas if you're constantly going on holidays, yeah, you get to experience different cultures, but end of the day, you go back to your hotel room and you're pretty relaxed and you get to watch Netflix. And I know a lot of people who go on holidays and they just pretty much do their routine just in a different country.
Yeah.
And it doesn't expand you. It doesn't grow you. It doesn't. I'm one of those people that I won't sleep when I'm on a holiday. I'll be up at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and then I'll go to midnight, and I want to experience everything. I want to experience the workday. I want to experience the tourists, and then I want to go and get pissed somewhere at night, get drunk somewhere at night, and just experience the whole lifestyle of the people and walking down random lanes and doing just other stuff. Sometimes I'm there clutching my wallet and my phone and my passport, making sure that, I'm not going to get pickpocketed, but that's the fear, but that's the experience that leads me to have great stories later. This one time in Turkey, I was walking by myself and I did a pub crawl during World Cup. Can you imagine that? And that was during Ramadan. So how risky was that? But at the same time, it was fun.
Yeah.
And I got a great story. Yeah. I don't really like soccer, but I stumbled across this laneway where they shut off and they had big projectors of the World Cup there, and everyone's there. I was drinking, but not many people were because it was Ramadan. And they're all outside smoking, watching the World Cup, cheering. And I go, how did I stumble across this? It was because I put myself out there. And
well, travel's one of the biggest ways that's what I was saying is that people embrace all the magic in life and basically expose themselves to all these situations and opportunities and experiences they wouldn't otherwise have had.
Yeah.
So
and that comes from as well spending time in the bush or in the country, camping out, because that expands you, that changes you, it takes you out of your safety and your comfort. I don't have a flushing toilet. I don't have electricity. I can only use my phone for a certain amount of time because I want to sustain the battery. There's so many other factors that come in that you just sit there and embrace and learn who you are again.
Yep, no, exactly. All right, so that's 6 points we've covered. Point number 7.
There we go.
This is a little bit of what you talked about before. Is that it helps you when you lean into your fear and stop staying within the comfort zones. It allows you to break through your own self-imposed limits. Right. So what happens is if you make that a way of life, you ask yourself, what else is possible? You talked about skydiving. And you go, wait, okay, what else I've done that? What else I can do? I've done a whole lot of firewalks.
Yeah.
I've done arrow breaks.
Yeah.
I've done arrows with back at your throat. You've got to push into, right? There's something counterintuitive about a steel-tipped arrow at your throat.
Yeah.
And you're looking into the eye of someone, then you're just going to push into that, and break it.
Oh,
right?
wow.
Yeah. So that kind of stuff, when you do that, it says to you, okay, what else can I do? Right? Fear is a perception. Fear is just an illusion, and you got to have trust in the bloke who's actually got an arrow at your throat and a sword at your throat.
Yeah,
but they're all experiences that show you that how much of what's holding you back and playing safe is actually costing you.
It's like with the Wim Hof breathing exercise. I went up there to Sydney and we were on this concrete floor. And we were deep breathing, and I just went into a different place. I was seeing colors, I was seeing different beings. It was almost like I was
tripping
on drugs, but I wasn't. It was just from breath work, just from breathing and returning your body to an alkaline state, and just it was amazing how limited my consciousness is. And then when you go and deep dive into it, you can expand yourself and you can change how you perceive everything, and it's amazing what's out there. And it's so simple. It was breath work. It doesn't cost anything. All you do is just breathe. And then we jumped in a whole bunch of ice water, and it was like we were elevated. It was a completely different feeling, and you're like, can I feel like this all the time? And it's amazing. You just remove those self-imposed limits. It's crazy what's out there.
No, which is good. And actually, this is great because this leads us to point number 8, is if you make it a way of life to step into uncertainty, it's going to make you feel alive, right? And there's going to be a joy in coming with that and the joy in pursuing a life on your own terms, right? You see that, you feel alive. If you have stagnation and boredom when you're constantly staying in the known, is all the juice in life is on the other end of the basically of that. And embracing that is what opens up all your senses, because part of it is like, holy shit, I'm terrified, but I got to go for it. That makes you resourceful and that allows you to open up elements of you that you didn't even know you had.
So I'm going to slip down to the Joe Rogan sort of DMT.
Yep.
We should do it one day. It's all naturally, it's a natural occurring phenomenon in our body. That's what deep Kundalini yoga is about. Like you get to that deep breath work. That's what the same thing that happened with Wim Hof. I'm sure there was some release of DMT with that breathing method that he does, but it's like the Mike Tyson thing on Joe Rogan. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but they were talking about their experience like using DMT.
Yep.
And Mike Tyson, you know, one of the toughest guys in the world, Iron Mike, you know, knocked out so many people, the heavyweight champion. He's like, he started with the DMT trip and he's like, no, I don't want to do this. No, yeah. And he came out with this love and euphoria. And it's like, it was one of the best experiences because he took down all his perceptions and his consciousness was taken away and he was just along for this journey. And he came out, he goes, I started loving more and appreciating more, and he was more alive than ever. And it's funny because DMT, yes, there's a synthetic version, but it is from that deep breathing. And you remove your comforts and your stigma around this, you'll be able to be alive and joyful and reaching visions that you've never thought about. But it's in our bodies. It's in our, just don't play it safe and just lean into that sort of experience and experience something completely new. Not saying take drugs. I'm just saying like work on your breathing, get out of your comfort zone and just really focus in on your body because our bodies can do some amazing stuff. And I know this is a business and entrepreneurial podcast, but to be able to physically transform your body in this manner shows you what you can do in other aspects of your life. It just changes your risk tolerance because you remove stigmas from the world.
Okay. Point number 9, if leaning into your fears, is it allows you to take control of your life because you're being intentional. So you're the master of your own life. You're not at the effect of it. So there's a powerfulness. There's something about autonomy, about having autonomy of your own life as opposed to being at the effect of it. That's really an important consideration. So when you embrace that, when you own that, where you are the captain of your own ship, there's something that happens for you and to you as a result of that. So when you're playing it safe, you're always basically you're left over with what everybody else has already taken, and you're just left with the scraps, metaphorically speaking. So when you are intentional and you choose what you want and lean into and really claim what you want, you get more of that.
Yeah, I get that. And that's why I don't think I could ever not own my own business anymore. It's, for instance, at 2 p.m. when I'm coming down and I'm like a little bit tired. A lot of European countries have siestas, but we don't have that here. So at 2 p.m. when after lunch you get that low productivity, it's like, hey, I'm going to have a 20-minute nap. I can do that because I work for myself. I control my world. And I think that's what a lot of people in 2020 got, was because they were working from home. They started having the freedoms, and it's really hard for a lot of people to go back into the offices. Now that in Victoria, you're allowed to go back into the office, a lot of people are finding it really difficult having a full day at work again and then 5 days in a row, because it was like, hey, I don't have a meeting for the next half an hour. I'm just going to go for a walk and just release all that built up energy. And they release it, they come back and they have their meeting, and they're living a better life because they're controlling themselves. And this is why I don't ever think I could go back to working for anyone. I own my destiny now. I control my life, and it's for me, it's a better way of living. It's not for everyone, but there's some days where it's terrible and it's shit, and you
you give it up. You
Yeah.
just go, here you go, mate. If someone gave me $2 for my $2 for my business, you go,
Yeah,
here,
you
take
can
it.
take it. Jim talks about the baby that never grows up, and that's the business. And you know, some days the baby cries all night long, and you're just like, you know what?
Yeah.
Can we return it back to the hospital because I just don't want this?
Yeah, but you know, Bettina and I always had this agreement that you know, at any one time, any one of us could want to go, right, I want to sell, I'm out, right?
Yep.
But we could, and while one felt that way, the other just carried them through, kept them going. We had an agreement that we both couldn't have that at the same time, right? We both couldn't go, these businesses out for $2, you know, like it was just, you know, one of us had to stick it through. One had to be the support person, one had to be the straight person, and one had to be the person who was all frustrated. But it's exactly right. There are days where it's woeful, it's crap, it's terrible. It's not sunshine and rainbows every day. It's you know, it's the journey that you choose. And
But I'd never give that up.
well, that's but it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's perfectly normal. But even within, if you said then choose it, this is the context of this, is even if you do choose to go on this nut job version and journey, you are still going to be times where you're playing it safe.
Yeah.
And this is what the whole focus is about. It is not the start a business or not start a business. That's basically beyond the discussion point. If you're already chosen to do it, okay, great. But in it, are you playing it safe? That's really what I want to talk about.
Yep.
Finally, the playing it safe starts creating a behavior within you that other people start seeing and emulating. And if you are in a position of leadership and you're not taking risks and you're not embracing these uncertainties, people around you will start looking at that and either be inspired not inspired by that, or assume that that's the culture of the organization. So if you make it a cultural thing that, okay, as part of working in this role, these are the things that we're going to test ourselves. We're going to challenge ourselves. And by doing that, that helps to inspire people and attract people around you that have those traits. So if you're playing it safe, you're going to have a team around you, directly or indirectly, that are going to play it safe. If you start embracing and leaning into these uncertainties, you then start attracting those type of people to you as well. So you become the vibration and the energy of what you put into the world by attracting those type of people to you as well.
Yeah, I get that. And especially being in kitchens and all this, and I'm not always a head chef when I walk into a kitchen, especially in events, but a lot of chefs have worked with other head chefs, and I can see the difference because when you work in events, your team is pretty good. They're very flexible. Every event's different. The menus change. They're very flexible generally, but the leadership that you need to have in there changes everything. I've seen people who are very tough old leaders that aren't flexible, and the room seizes up because I've worked for people like that, and they become very rigid, and it's not a comfortable place to be in. So when I'm a head chef and I've got the ability to change the culture, I laugh, I ask people, what do you think? I crack jokes. I make it a very light environment. And then when that happens, I notice that the chefs that are on will help the kitchen hands, and then the kitchen hands will help the chefs, and it all works in a nice, great motion. And that's because we've changed the energy, and we've made it a light workplace. We've made it a team environment. And I'm not the best leader, I'm not going to say that, but I can see, and I hear it when I get employed by someone to come in for the event. They're like, we love working with you because everything becomes easy. I go, it becomes easy because I'm not yelling. I'm building a team here. And even if I'm in there for one day, I'm going to build that team the way I want it that day. I'm going to communicate everything. I'm going to talk to them. I'm going to hear their opinions, and we're going to move forward that way. And a lot of the time, that's how I get repeat customers in the cooking world. And when I walk in the door, they're like, "You're the head chef today." And I go, "But that guy's more qualified." I get, no, you're the head chef. Don't talk about it. Let's just move forward. And it's because it's the way that you inspire people and the way you want to attract the people that you work with and the environment you want to be around. Just don't play it safe. Just Yeah.
You become the I guess the reference for people around you, and you become an example. Your life's either a warning or an example to people.
Yeah.
And you can give them an indication of how you as an organization can operate and what expectations you have of the people around you to work with you as well. So there's a good example of that in action, Adam. So we're winding up now our podcast episode, and for those of you who've been listening and may have missed one or two points, we've got some show notes that you can chase up that gives you a summary of the key points that we went through. Adam, do you want to let people know where they could get those show notes?
Yeah, just on our website, www.launchandbeyond.com, and it's under the show notes tab at the top. And then we've also got our episodes on our website as well. So sometimes if they don't get onto Spotify and iTunes straight away because there's upload issues recently, we've always got it on our website. So every week on Monday, they all come out.
So that brings us to the end of this episode, Adam. Great once again to just share and communicate some of the things that playing it safe cost you. Not 100% convinced that jumping out of a plane at the moment is right up there with one of my highest priorities. But
playing it too safe.
But thank you for sharing that with me.
Hey, my shout.
It's not about that, mate.
My shout.
Don't worry, I'd be the one shouting, and that'd be the one all the way down. So thank you once again for everybody for joining us on our podcast. This is just a reminder to connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and extended Launch and Beyond community, that you could do so on these channels. If you've got any questions or comments you'd like about the podcast or anything else about that, please feel free to reach out. A lot of times just doing so sets off momentum that starts communicating and getting conversations going that helps pretty much everybody. And finally, if you're enjoying the podcast and finding value in it, we'd be grateful if you go over to iTunes and leave us a review. That'll allow us to reach more people and have a bigger impact on our community. Once again, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us, and bye for now.
And definitely head over to iTunes and comment if you want Jim to jump out of a plane with me. We'll organize that. Thanks, guys.